In this video, I'll be showing you how to create alerts that tell you whenever your clients don't spend money on ads. This way, if there's any sort of payment failures, account bans, ad disapprovals, whatever else it may be, you get a notification that looks like this, rather than having your clients get mad at you because their ads have been down for 2 weeks and you and your team did not notice. I'll be giving you all the tools you need to actually set this up in your agency. We'll build the automation live together from scratch. You can literally just copy this, and I'll show you how our partners are using similar automations to help give their clients a better experience at scale. So here's a quick overview of the actual system. This system is broken down into 3 key steps: reporting, scraping, and notifying. The first step of this is reporting. This is where we want to take all that data from Facebook Ads Manager. And by the way, it doesn't have to be Facebook. This applies to TikTok, Bing, Google, wherever else it may be. In this example, I'm going to be using Meta because it's the most common. And we're going to get that data from Meta into a Google Sheet. This is so that in the second step, every morning we can basically scrape that Google Sheet and find out which one of our clients have not spent money on ads. Then for those clients that we scraped in the second step, we go ahead and actually send a notification to your internal team to let everyone know who hasn't spent money and why they haven't spent money. So then your media buyers can take a better look at it and just make sure your clients are actually spending money on ads so you can get them the results you actually promised them. So guys, the system itself is fairly simple, so we'll get straight into it. And the first step of this is the reporting side of things. So in this case, we don't want to keep this data within Meta or the ad manager. We want to bring this data into a Google Sheet where we can actually scrape it in the next step. So in order to do this, we're going to be using a tool called 2-minute reports. Now, I am not sponsored by these guys by any means necessary. It's literally the same tool that we use for all the different partners that come through us, for all the different offers that we have going on the back end. And from what I've seen, is the best tool, at least at its current price, that allows you to get all these different data from ad platforms into a simple Google Sheet so you can do whatever you want with it after that. I'll leave a link in the description. I'm not sponsored. This is just the tool that we use, and it's a tool that we're going to be using in this video. If you find another tool, then go ahead and test it out. Now, I'm not going to insult you by signing up to 2-minute reports and doing a setup from scratch because, guys, this is fairly straightforward. You can figure it out yourself. All you need to do is go to 2-minute reports or any sort of software that does the same concept, sign up, and then connect it to a Google Sheet. Once you've signed up to 2-minute reports or any software that is similar to 2-minute reports, we're going to go ahead and actually need to set up a Google Sheet, because this is the Google Sheet that we're going to be scraping every single day to actually search for our data. So in this case, I've got this example Google Sheet that I set up, and this is a simple Google Sheet. Right now it's basic. I'm going to go over to extensions. I'm going to go up and open 2-minute reports. And the next thing we want to actually do is set up our query. Now, in this case, I've got this query that I built out a couple of days ago, but we're going to be setting up one from scratch. So in order to do this, I'm just going to add a new query. And obviously at this point, I really should have added my accounts, so forth, so we can actually get my client's data. So in this case, I'm going to be calling this the daily scrape. And I'm going to go ahead and actually select some accounts. Now, guys, it's important that these accounts are basically going to be your client accounts that you're going to have within your Meta account. So when you're connecting your account to 2-minute reports, any tool of your choice, make sure that you have all the different ad accounts, or you connect the account that has access to your client ad accounts. When I'm over here, I'm actually going to go ahead and just choose a couple of different ad accounts we can use for testing. So I'm just going to choose the first 4 or 5. I'm going to choose everyone, and that's pretty much it. Now, within this section, I can actually choose what metrics I want to display. Now, as you can see, we have a ton of different metrics that we can actually display here, from impressions, clicks, amount spent, conversions, CPL, so on and so forth. In this case, I only care about the amount spent. And obviously, you can change this. Maybe just, for example, I'll throw in impressions. But honestly, that's pretty much it. Don't overcomplicate it, and you'll be good to go. Now, by dimensions, which is what we're actually going to group it by, we want to actually have the time connection and also the account connection. This is how we can identify by individual accounts. So in this case, I'm going to put time, I'm going to go date, and I'm going to go also the connection name. Now, in this case, I'm not going to use the connection name just because I don't want to dox my client and his clients. So instead, I'm just going to go with the account and show the account ID, which will make life a lot easier. For the data, you can go all the way back to as much as you want, but just because I don't want to overcrowd the Google Sheet, I'm going to go last 30 days. And after we're good to go. So I'm going to run the query, but we're going to see the data basically being populated within the Google Sheet, which is my client's data from Meta directly in the Google Sheet. The whole reason we're doing this is so we can actually scrape the Google Sheet in a second, and using these different tools allow us to actually do that without too much hassle and having to set up different API keys for the different connections, which is a bit annoying, believe it or not. So as you can see over here, now we have our data over here on the left-hand side of Google Sheet, but for some reason it did it in this column. So I'm just going to basically start this again, and I'm just going to put it in A1. So it's nice and properly formatted. And now if we go back to our Google Sheet any second now, we're going to see it being updated on the left-hand side over here with all the data coming through. But if you have a look at this data, it's basically all it is. It gives you a day-by-day breakdown of each client, of how much money they actually spent, as you can see over here on the left-hand side. And again, I'm just going to move myself out of the way for this one, because now we've set up our query, and now we can actually start using the data in this to do a bit more things. What we have here is a day-by-day breakdown for the past 30 days of how much each client has spent on ads. And the whole premise of the scraping side of things, guys, is that we're going to be looking at this data on a daily basis, getting yesterday's numbers, and finding out which client have not spent money. What I'm going to do is just copy this array formula that I had when I was testing this out before actually recording the video. And I'm going to go ahead and actually drop it here. And the reason is because we'll get some sort of clarification as to what their accounts actually look like. So example 1, example 2, let's just copy some of these IDs and let's interject it here. So just like that, we actually have our distinction between the clients. Now, the only reason I did this so you can have an idea of what these different clients look like, especially on the automation side of things. It will make your life a bit easier. But for now, we just basically have our breakdown of our daily ad spend for all different clients. And now we can basically move over to the next step, which is scraping this data. So guys, I've also created another sheet in the meantime, which is my client sheet. And all this basically has is my client name in this case, my Facebook account IDs. This is basically the data that we're going to reference to find out which clients are spending or not. If we go back to this data, we only see people that are spending money. So that means we don't know who's not spending money based on this table. So what the system is going to do is going to basically pull this client list, find out which one of these guys are not spending money. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and actually message the CSM or the relevant person saying, hey, this person isn't spending money because their data is not on the sheet. So we're making an assumption that if they're not on the sheet, they're not spending money. And this is the same system that we implement in our partners to give them alerts. So it works very well. So now that we actually have our Google Sheet, we're going to go ahead and actually go over to a no-code automation platform to actually set up the automation. Now, the example I'm going to be using in this case is make.com. It doesn't matter which example I'm using. Again, I'm not sponsored by any of these guys. This is not how you make our money. But make.com is what we use for all different partners. It's the cheapest. It's still super, super reliable. And it's pretty straightforward to use. So you don't have to worry about hiring any sort of dev to actually set up for you. Now, kind of like I explained to you guys a bit earlier, this automation itself is fairly simple. But the two key things we're trying to achieve here is this scraping and notifying side of things. So how does the automation actually going to work? Well, basically every morning we're going to be getting yesterday's data and we're going to be finding the columns where ad spend is equal to 0 or there's no ad spend that exists for this specific account. Once we have that breakdown, we can then go ahead and find that client, make sure the client is active, then send a message to the CSM and also update the status to make sure, or within our CRM, to let us know that they're not actually spending money. It's a very, very simple automation, guys, but it's super powerful because every single time I hop on these calls with my clients, they tell me, hey, can we set this up? And after a while, we actually ended up. It's a simple automation, but it's super powerful. The simple automations are the ones that are actually going to drive revenue forward. There's so many different videos on YouTube going over the most complex automations, which are super, super cool and are really, really good proof of concept for these platforms, but they don't actually do anything. Like, why are you going to spend some time spending up a 40-minute tracker or content creation that you don't even use to create content? What I'm trying to show you here is actually actionable feedback that you can actually copy this, implement in your agency straight away, and begin getting alerts when your clients are not spending money on ads. So they don't come complaining to you after 2 weeks trying to figure out why the ads are off. And you don't have to get onto your media buyers saying, hey, by the way, why didn't you pick up that these clients are spending money on ads? Because trust me, it's a massive problem. When we're doing these churn audits, one of the reasons why people are actually losing their clients is because of a lack of these proactiveness alerts. And this is a small part of the system, which I'm going to talk about in a second, of how our clients are actually using this. But it's a simple system that you can implement today, instant ROI, especially because it's free. I'm giving you guys all the setup for free. And before we actually begin building this, the last thing I'll say is that if you want a complete automation build, the actual template, so you can literally just copy and paste in your agency, it'll be in the second link in the description or some point in the description. You can join our free school community. Within there, we have all the different templates for our different YouTube videos, 100% free. That is not how we make our money, just to kind of buy your trust. So if you don't want to set up, then go ahead and check out the school community, join, and then once someone lets you in, you can go to the classroom, you can get access to all that good stuff. But I still would recommend watching the breakdown and the step-by-step setup guides so you can customize it to your own specific preference. So now within make.com, which is a no-code automation platform that we're going to be using in this video to actually create this. Within make.com, it's going to take a second to load, but I'm going to load up my YouTube channel, make.com account, which I used to build up basically all the different automations that we may need. So I'm going to go with the scenarios on the left-hand side. I'm going to go ahead and actually create a new scenario. And in this case, we're going to be setting up our scraper, which is the system that's going to scrape this Google Sheet every day to find out what clients are underspending or not spending money on their platforms. So in this case, it's a very easy scenario. I'm going to go over to Google Sheets. I'm going to go over to get range of values. And within get range values, I'm basically want to search my client sheet. So in this case, I'm going to go to my drive, search by all. I'm going to just search for the name of the sheet I just created a second ago, which in this case, I'm just going to do my add data sheet. And once it actually pulls up, we're going to see a couple of different ones. I'm just going to choose this one. And within here now, I can set my ranges. So for the sheet name, I'm going to be scraping my client sheet first because we want to get an idea of all the different clients we're scraping. And then we're going to go ahead and customize it. And then for the range, in this case, is nothing too complicated. I'm just going to put A1 to D10. Well, obviously, you can expand it depending on how many clients you have. D100 doesn't really matter. And in this case, my table does have headers. I'm just going to put A1 to D1. And now if I go ahead and press search, what we should see is that when we run this module, it's going to basically output all the different clients that we have on our sheet. So in this case, we have 5 different clients that we're looking after with the relevant IDs. And this is now who we're going to be searching for on another sheet. So now that we have our initial scrape of different clients, I'm going to go to add another module. I'm going to go to Google Sheets and I'm going to search for another step, which is search rows. Now, in this case, we're not getting a whole range of values. We're looking for one specific row, which is more specifically yesterday's ad spend data to find out if our clients have spent money or not. So within the sheet now, I'm going to go back to that spreadsheet ID that we had over here. So I'm going to go search for more, ID finder, add data, just choose the same sheet that we had. You can optionally also copy the ID directly from the URL, but I'm a bit lazy. Now I'm going to go my sheet 3, which is a sheet where we actually have that query from 2-minute reports. And if I go down to filter, this is now we're going to set up a filters. So there's 2 different filters that I want. I want to set up a date filter and I want to set up the account ID filter, because this is how we're going to select yesterday's data for that specific client. So for the date filter, I'm going to go over and set the parameters so I can dynamically scrape yesterday's data. In order to do that, I'm going to go over to the date and time functionality with the make.com, and I'm going to move this to the side a bit so you guys can actually see this a bit better. I'm going to go over to format date because we want a specific format to make sure it's getting the right thing. And I'm also going to go add days. In here, I'm going to put now. So I'm basically on my function. I'm going to add a certain amount of days to now, which is the date right now. And in this case, I'm minusing 1. This is going to be scraped in the morning. It's going to minus 1 from today's date. So now we basically have yesterday's date, which is what we're using to scrape, because we're saying the date has to be equal to this. And then in terms of formatting the date, the format we're going to want it as is the same format as the Google Sheet, which is year, 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 then month, month, and then day, day in this specific format. And then for the text operator, we'll leave it equal to, we might have to change it to the date operator, but for now we'll leave it as that. And then for the account ID, very simple. We just choose the account ID from the previous step to make it equal to this. So fairly simple stuff, account ID. Now I'm just going to go to save and I'm going to go ahead and actually run this. And what we should see is that for yesterday's data, it should go ahead and pull the individual clients, as you see it did here. These are the 5 operations because these are the 5 clients that I have on my sheet, guys. That's basically what's done. So for the first client, you can see there was no ad spend yesterday because they didn't find any bundles that had data. For the second client, there was ad spend yesterday. It spent about $25. For the third client, they didn't spend any money because there's no bundles that are being found. And for the fourth client, they spent $48. And for the fifth client, they spent $29. And if I go back to my beautiful Google Sheet and we scroll all the way down to yesterday's date, all the way on the left-hand side over here, I'll move this so you guys can see this again. We can have a look at yesterday's data and tell us what this is telling us. This is yesterday's data over here, the 14th. What's it actually telling us over here? It's telling us that this client, client 2 spent money, client 4 spent money, and client 5 spent money. And this is the exact same thing that we receive on our end when we actually check this out. So everything works out. And now we know that 2 clients didn't spend money, which are the 2 clients that are going to be picked up, which we're going to set a variable for in the meantime. Now, one thing I probably didn't talk about enough in 2-minute reports is that you can also automate the scraping of the Google Sheet. So it's not like you have to come every morning and update it. You can set up like an automated filter. So it runs every hour. So the data is basically live, but it basically updates automatically every hour for every single one of the client ad accounts that you're looking after. So now that I've got my scrape data on Google Sheet, I basically want to set up a step to actually send some sort of reminder within Slack or any sort of Slack channel you have. So in this case, all I'm going to do is go over to Slack and I'm going to go over to create a message. But before we actually create this message and spend some time doing this, we want to basically set up a filter at this step. Because if right now we don't set up a filter, all the different scrapes that we're going to do are centered here, especially with our spending money, whoever else it may be. All I did was over here, I set up a filter where its total number of bundles is equal to 0, which I got from the previous step. But what does this total number of bundles basically mean? This number of bundles is basically the total number of clients or records that I found that matches the search criteria that we set up in the previous step. Now, in our example, our search criteria is what? The date has to be equal to yesterday's date and the data actually needs to be equal to the account ID that we have over here. What this means is that if it doesn't find something that doesn't meet this criteria, it basically means they have not spent money. So for example, for the first client, which is account ID, this number over here, I thought it would actually tell us a name, but it doesn't. We can see the total number of bundles is equal to 0, which basically means there's no records associated with this client in terms of yesterday's data, which basically means they have not spent money. So these guys need to pass through. If I quickly test this out, maybe I'm going to add another module here where I can set variables. And just to set this out, you can get an idea what this looks like. And I disconnect this. We should only see 2 bundles going out here because we know that yesterday 3 people sent money. So in this example, you can see out of the 5 bundles of my 5 clients, only 2 of them have not spent money, which is why this filter is very, very important. Now, in this case, we can go straight to the next step, which is basically sending a message. Now, what do I actually want to do here? I basically want to send a message to my CSMs or whoever's looking after these accounts to ask them to let them know that, hey, you guys are not spending money for XYZ. Let's go ahead and actually find out why. So in this case, I'm going to go over to send a message. I'm going to enter a client ID, which is going to be my client ID from one of my testing channels. So in this case, I've got my ID from one of my testing channels. And now we're going to talk about the text. Now, guys, the text is actually something that's interesting to talk about because when we actually talk about text and sending kind of messages through Slack, especially from mate.com, there's two different ways you can do it. You can do it through the text module or the text kind of input box or the block kit builder box. Now, I always recommend using a block kit builder box, even though it has a little bit more frictional to actually set up, just because the messages look a lot nicer. And secondly, you can get a lot more clearer format. And the block kit builder itself is nothing too complicated. It's just basically a set of very simple language that you can use to actually use it. When I do it, I always use ChatGPT to actually generate this just because it's the easiest thing to do, guys. All you have to do, and I'm going to use a voice dictation in this case, is hey chat, generate me a block kit builder code that I can input into mate.com to send an alert to my CSMs when my clients are not spending money on their ads. So very simple. This system has detected that a client can't spend money on ads, and I want you to send a message to the relevant CSM saying, hey, this specific client has not spent money on ads yesterday. Go ahead and check it out, and also include a button. And that's pretty much it, guys. Now it's going to go ahead and actually generate a block kit builder code for me. So while this generates, we're going to go back to our make.com automation. I'm just going to clean a couple of different things up. And by the way, this is the block to input text I was talking about. We have a text option and we have the block kit builder option. It's the same thing as, like, for example, when you're sending an email through automation, you have a text to do a raw text or HTML text. I obviously always recommend doing the HTML text because the format looks a lot nicer. If you're a bit lazy, you don't have to do it, and then you're pretty much good to go. And also, guys, probably one thing I didn't mention, just because I expect everyone watching this to have some sort of experience using Make.com or any sort of no-code automation tools, is how to actually add your connections to this. It's super easy, guys. This is one of the reasons why these no-code automation platforms actually are popular. All you need to do is go press add, and it makes it super easy to actually create a connection. So you're gonna go user or bot, again, doesn't really matter. You're gonna name it whatever you want, press save, and then a pop-up is basically gonna appear asking you to click to Slack. It's the same exact thing for the Google Sheet. Press add, log in through Google, and then you'll be good to go in terms of actually connecting, guys. But in this case, I've got my block kit build code ready. I'm going to go back to make.com. We're going to input it in, and then we'll actually see what this looks like. So if you go to block kit builder, we just have to remap it with the correct relevant values. So we have a bunch of different information here. And to be honest, I don't want to make the message nearly this complicated, but there are different data that I want to pull in, such as the CSM name, so on and so forth, which we're going to talk about in a second. So in this case, I'm just going to map a couple of different example fields. I'm basically going to be updating my client sheet after this. For now, E is basically going to be my CSM name. It should be the first module where we're actually scraping the client data. So in this case, my name is going to be this sheet over here. And then we have our CSM, which is now going to be C. Then yesterday's date is going to be, we have to put it in dynamically. So I'm going to put add days. I'm going to put now. And then over here, I'm going to go ahead and put the relevant time. And I'm going to put -1 for the actual days. This is yesterday. For the ad account name, I'm not going to worry about that too much. I'm just going to enter the ad account ID, which is right here. And in case of yesterday spent, this is always going to be 0. So I can just add that in here. And the expected range, you can add an expected range in terms of spend, but I'm just going to remove this bit because we don't really need it. To be honest, we don't want to make this too complicated. So now what we're going to do is add the ad account URL. Now, this is actually where you can make it a bit more spicy. If you have the Facebook manager link, you can make this link dynamic just by adding the ID. So for example, it'll be like something like www.meta.com/ and then you can put the account ID link over here. Now in this example, I'm not actually bothered to get the actual meta link, but super simple. All you need to do is get an example link of one of your ad accounts and just replace the account ID dynamically using what I just did over here. And now for the client portal URL, we don't really need this, to be honest, because we have a client portal. And then for the task list, I'm also going to go ahead and remove this because even though this is good, sometimes they make it a bit more complicated than it has to be. So we're going to go and actually test this out now. The only thing I get to change is the client name. I can get from this example over here, and I'm going to press save. And I'm not actually going to run this. So we're going to see what happens. Sometimes it might not work in terms of the block kit builder, but this is the whole point of automation, guys. When you're setting up automations, and make sure to test everything you do. So if there's any errors, you can basically spot it straight away. So let's go ahead and actually run this, and let's see if there's any errors. So in this case, there was an error. It looks like the block code was invalid. Let's check out what specific part was invalid. So whenever you're doing block kit builder code, all you need to do is basically just copy it. And within here, you're going to see this little link to the block kit builder, and it's basically going to pull it up for you. And then literally all you have to do is copy and paste it, and it'll tell you where you made a mistake. So in this case, I'm going to go for this. So this happens sometimes you delete some of ChatGPT's things. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this. Let me go back here and actually get the actual raw code with the actual variables. And I'm basically going to ask it to fix it for me because I cannot be bothered to go through each of the individual steps and actually fix it or format it properly. So in this case, I'm just going to paste this in, and I'm going to go ask it to basically reformat it for me. It'll find the error and then go ahead. And as you can see, I'm missing a space at the top, and I'm missing a field at the end of the actual URL, which this is going to be fixing for us over here. So I've got my block kit builder code. I'm going to go back to make.com. I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to delete the old one. I'm going to paste in the new one. And after that, we should be good to go. I'm going to delete this dash because we don't need that. As you can see, it did. and I got 2 notifications on Slack, as you can see down here. Let's actually pull this up and see what's going on. So if you go to my Slack, what can I actually see here? I can see the 2 example messages that I've received to alert me that this client has not spent money on ads. Now imagine this running for every single one of your clients every single day to tell you who hasn't spent money yesterday. And obviously, if you do have some different clients, then this might cloud up Slack slightly. But in this case, you don't really have to worry about it too much because you can send it directly to your CSMs if you have, 50 plus clients that your CSMs are managing. But in this case, it's super easy for me to now know who's not spending money, guys. All I need to do is check my Slack basically every morning, check out the different ad accounts that are not spending money, figure out why, and obviously the media buyers can go there and get alerted of any payment errors, any sort of ad account bans, any ad disapprovals. So your clients can get a lot faster feedback loops on in terms of whether the ads are running or not, to make sure that the ads are running as much as possible, so you can actually have a chance to actually make them in ROI. Now, in this case, there's a lot of different things I can do to improve this, guys, because this is kind of like a very, very beta version of this. So let's actually talk about what we can do quickly. The first thing I would do is, as soon as an actual Slack message gets sent out, I would add another module. In this case, I'm just going to add it as a Google Sheet, but I would add it as a module within your CRM to actually update the CRM to set the status of this client's, for example, ad spending or ad spend tracking to not spending. This way, you have a very, very clear overview who's not spending money or not. And it also more potentially maybe add a note or create a task within your project management system to actually sort that out. This doesn't have to be anything too complicated, guys. The whole premise of this is that now you now have an alert that will alert you whenever your clients are not spending money on ads, so your CSMs can actually jump in and actually do something about it. So guys, in terms of the actual automation setup, that is pretty much it. What we basically going over today is showing you how to set up a system that will allow you to automatically scrape your metadata into a Google Sheet. In this example, I use Meta, but it doesn't have to be Meta. You can use TikTok ads, Google ads, Bing ads, wherever else other ad platform that you may have. The whole idea of this is that we're getting that data onto a Google Sheet, so that in the second step, every morning, we're going to be scraping that data and finding out people that have zero spend, so we can actually notify someone in your team so they can actually do something about it. We set up the automation from scratch. Now let's talk about how this automation actually works. Without having different systems like this within your agency, your backend is blind. And this is a problem that most people have, where you have now different CSMs managing a ton of different clients and actually trying to get them results on a consistent basis. So what I recommend doing is setting up obviously this system, because one of the systems that you need to have to avoid having your clients angry at you for not spending money for the past 2 weeks. But the reality is that this is just a smaller part in a much, much bigger system of different tools you need to have to be proactive in your agency, guys. Because all these 7-figure agencies that we work with are proactive. And I'm telling you right now, that's the difference between an agency that's signing on clients and losing them next month, and an agency that's managing to keep clients for 1 year plus with a sub 10% churn rate. So the key part of this is, guys, you can set up the system, and it's a great system to have in your agency to actually give you some alerts when your clients are not spending money on Facebook, but it's not the solution that's going to revolutionize the churn in your agency. It's just one of the many tools you can set up in your agency to start becoming proactive. And if you are proactive, you'll be able to decrease your churn rate, which in turn is going to go ahead and allow you to have a better retention, a higher LTV, higher profits, so you can afford a higher CAC, which basically means you can afford to spend more money on actually getting your clients, and you can scale faster. Everyone knows that having a higher OTV is the key to happier clients, a happier team, more referrals, more marketing material, and better word of mouth. There's so many different benefits to it, but not enough agents actually care about it. And just to be clear, this is not something you need to worry about if you're just starting out in your agency game. This is something you need to worry about when you're managing more than 40 clients and you're trying to get them consistent results on a regular basis. Then you're going to begin to notice, as you hire more CSM, there's not going to be the key. As you take on more random systems, it's not going to be the key. Is having a different systems that will allow you to be proactive in your agency, that's going to allow you to continue scaling like it has for different clients. So don't stop learning here, guys. Obviously, set up this system. The automation template is going to be completely free in my school community, so you're using one of the links in the description. It's not how we make our money, so you can literally download it straight away. It's 1000% free. All I'm trying to do here is buy your trust. And don't stop learning here. Check out this video right here to give you a complete overview of how you can automate your Facebook ad reporting, both internally for your team and externally for your clients, so you can start becoming proactive in your agency, so you can help more clients, decrease your churn rate, increase your LTV, and make more money. Also, if you do want a system that's going to allow you to predict and prevent churn in your agency on autopilot, then check out one of the links below. It's 100% done for you. We'll set it up in your agency in 14 days. And by the end of it, you're going to have a complete system that will allow you to give your clients consistent results on autopilot without having to ruin your client experience or stress on your team. So if that sounds interesting, then check out the VSL below in the description. And apart from that, guys, that's pretty much it for me. Do not stop learning here, guys. This is one of the many tools you can set up in your agency to actually become proactive and give your clients better better experience. So check out this video to show you how you can automate your Facebook ad reporting and it uses 2-minute reports and uses a similar concept that we talked about today. And if you have any questions, drop them below in the comments. We're a small channel, so we answer every single question in depth. The whole point of this is just nurture for our actual clients, so we don't hold anything back. Look after yourself, guys. Apply the different things we talked about in this video, and don't forget to continue your learning and continue binge watching different videos on how you can give your clients a better experience using the systems that we talk about. Thanks, guys. Bye bye.